Just a quick review of Zoom best practices. Camera on, please. You want to be in speaker view. Very important to have your microphone muted so we don't have background noise. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, and of course, assume best intentions. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land of Leelanau County is land ceded in the Treaty of 1855, whose ancestral land of the Anishinaabeg, known as the Three Fires Confederacy of the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi, and recognized by the colonial government as the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. We give thanks to the Anishinaabe as the caretakers of Mother Earth and their relationship to the land. We acknowledge that we are nothing without Mother Earth, Aki, Nusen, air, Nibi, water, Gitgaden, plants, and Wesiang, animals. And now I'm going to play, since the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, I'm going to play a short video, 4 minutes. It was done by Taro Yamasaki, and the interesting thing is he is the son of the architect of the World Trade Center. And Taro, the son, lives in Leelanau, and he did this video for the Glen Arbor Fire Department a few years ago, back in 2013. Sam, can you hear the sound? I forgot to check if I shared my computer sound. Let me try that again.
Yes, I can hear it, Phil.
Okay, yeah, it is checked. Just wanted to do a double check. Okay.
On that fateful morning, as thousands fled the burning towers, first responders from the New York Fire Department charged into the inferno. Among the hundreds of initial first responders was the elite search and rescue unit Rescue 4 from Queens, led by Lieutenant Kevin Dowdell. In his 20 years in the department, Kevin was cited for valor 17 times. Married to Rosellen for 21 years, they had 2 sons, Patrick and James, who were 17 and 18 on 9/11. The sons went to Ground Zero for months after school, searching for their father. This Halligan tool, held by Patrick, was the only trace of their father ever found. James had dreamed of being a fireman since he was 7. Kevin was so proud that Patrick's goal was to enter West Point, and he helped him fill out his application. Rosellen beams with pride. She speaks of how James and Patrick were even more determined after the horrors of 9/11 to continue on the journey they had started with their father. This is Rescue 4, one of only 5 elite rescue units in the entire New York Fire Department. The fire station is not only home to Rescue 4 and Engine Company 292, but to memories of the fallen as well. Lieutenant Billy Murphy guides the Dowdells on their first visit to the station since 9/11. Hundreds of first responders from all over the world helped with the recovery effort. It was early on, in the first day really, when I started to realize there was going to be a lot of guys here looking for loved ones. There were about 8 of us that started meeting up every day, dads looking for their sons. So said Lee Alpe, a retired New York Fire Department veteran whose firefighter's son Jonathan was killed on 9/11. The 9/11 Tribute Center, founded by Lee and Jennifer Adams, a volunteer he met during the recovery effort, has moved millions of visitors from around the world since its founding. As a guide and an elementary school teacher, Rosellen's personal perspective added an intimate depth to the Tribute Center's impact. Firefighter Mike Kehoe was one of the many first responders who charged up crowded stairwells as thousands fled down. They knew, and we remember.
Our topic this morning was poverty in Leelanau, but there was a feeling that was not a term that was really helpful in understanding what's going on. So we changed it to struggling financially in Leelanau. And the first thing is to be aware of it, and more importantly, how we can help. So I'm happy to say that we have a blue ribbon panel this morning to help us have a better understanding and do a better job of helping those who are struggling. So included live on our Zoom this morning is County Commissioner Ty Wessel, Beth Verhey, who is former senior advisor to UNICEF, and then also by way of video recording, Beatrice Cruz from Sutton Space Schools, Mary Stanton from Leelanau Christian Neighbors, and April Mises from Leelanau County Services. So with that, I will turn it over to Ty and Beth.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Sam. It's tough to follow the video we just saw with this presentation, but thank you for letting us be a part of it. And thanks for your patience as we've tried to condense something that ought to take hours and hours of discussion in just a couple of minutes. But we're looking at a slide right now that I think is pretty powerful. And for the last 10, 11 years, I've been putting together a two-page summary of poverty in invisible Leelanau families. And the bad news is we're getting worse. We've got so many families that are struggling. And I've been chastised at the Board of Commissions table. Chairman Bunnick said, Ty, why are you always talking about the negative? But I do believe that being a little bit dissatisfied is the first step in solving the problem. And as we've heard from Francis Perkins, who is famously quoted as saying, a healthy discontent keeps us alert to the changing needs of our communities. And that's what we're about today. And we'd like to start by saying that about 43% of the people in our county are struggling financially for a lot of reasons. It may be insurance, it may be housing, it may be uncollected child support, it may be medical, it may be lack of benefits, low wages, but almost half then of our families are struggling. Some of those are in poverty, but some of those are working 2 or 3 jobs and working full time and still struggling. So we're going to share some data today, and thank you very much. Next slide, please. I think, Beth, this is your slide.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining today, because I hope that already starts this group on the path that Phil was saying, that already by joining, you're learning and committing to care. It's certainly a big, I think, part of the next steps. So this first slide, please bear with us, is going to be a lot of words, and then we'll get to more infographics and other things as we move along. And so part of my job is, unfortunately, to try to talk through a lot of terms and words and data points, but hope that it tells you a story. And absolutely part of why the name change is there, financially struggling, is part of the story is to dispel myths about poverty. So this first few words are really just to say that what poverty means in data terms is that it is a metric established through US Census data by the federal government, and that has existed since 1965. It does have some increases for cost of living, but it is very generic, and nationally, it is widely recognized as insufficient. In fact, internationally, this is very common. When our poverty levels that are set are very unusefully too low, and then actually don't help meet needs and help our thriving economies. So in fact, one quick thing, you can go ahead and move along, Phil, to get to the next term. But one thing you might hear sometimes is that qualifying for something will be at 160 or 185%. So that's very common, and that shows how this figure is sort of always adjusted and not seen as sufficient. Fortunately, the United Way does some great work and has a metric, a framework that is called ALICE. And this is a lot of what we're going to be talking you through today. And the key word here is actually the E. So you see the third hash there: asset limited, income constrained, employed. Meaning the key point here is that people are employed, but wages have not kept up with household costs. This is national. This is not just Michigan. This is not just Leelanau. It's actually global. There has been wage stagnation for decades. But they're employed, and as Ty said, often 2 jobs or more. But the other key components here are asset limited. So you can imagine already the income constrained, but asset limited. It means you're so struggling to make ends meet, and you don't have anything to leverage change and improvement or actually handling emergencies. I actually am not going to remember the full quote, but a few months ago, in speaking about the latest ALICE report as it came out in the spring, someone relayed to me that their favorite quote was one that was by Martin Luther King, and it was part of his letters when he was in the Birmingham jail. And it was that this common phrase of pulling oneself up by one's bootstraps may be fine, but what about if you don't start out with any bootstraps? And that's a big part of what the asset means. And when you hear phrases that poverty is intergenerational, that it gets stuck in zip codes and goes on for generations. And I'm sure across you, some of you will have differences about where you've come in life. Did you have to take loans for going to college? Did your family struggle to make ends meet, carry a lot of credit card debt? That's a big part of where this is. And forgive me if my eyes are flipping a little bit to some of my own side notes, but please go ahead, Phil, to the next slide. So what I'm going to be doing today is first showing a little bit this big picture of what is ALICE in Leelanau, and then unpacking some of the components that make up these metrics of asset limited, income constrained, employed. So the good news in this graph, it shows that in the past 10 years, this is Leelanau specific, in the United Way metrics, they issue these reports every 2 years. And then you can actually go on the site and generate county by county and even township level data. So the good news is that this shows that poverty has decreased, but indeed our number of ALICE households has increased faster than even the poverty has gone down. Go ahead and go on, Phil. I'm going to need to go a little bit faster. Just a quick highlight here that showing this variance within Leelanau County, that the highest townships are Leelanau and Casson at 50 and 52%, and Glen Arbor at 23%. Go on, please, Phil. And you already saw in Ty's first slide how we compare to Michigan overall. So the key factors here is this survival budget. And again, pointing out that these figures are Leelanau specific. And it shows at the bottom on a monthly basis, on an annual salary basis, and on an hourly wage basis, what kind of incomes a household would need to survive. This is simply barely make ends meet in Leelanau. The federal poverty level for a household of 2 adults and 2 children is 25,000, I think 740, if I don't move my eyes too much to see my exact figure, but you can see that that figure here in Leelanau to make ends meet is over 64,000. So it gives you a quick picture of how much people are struggling. We're going to be first at what I'm going to do here to help show these different components of what goes into these ALICE metrics is talking through the housing, childcare, and food metrics. And I guess one thing I would ask you to do, don't focus too much on the individual numbers, but to the degree you can, as we're going through this, try to put yourself here. What is your own housing monthly cost? If you still have childcare expenses, your own, this would be monthly grocery bills, not going out and things like that. And again, this is actually an additional point to point out is that the most recent ALICE report is before COVID. So these figures that we're showing you is pre-COVID data. And as you can imagine, we would expect these figures to go up once we have more data specific from the pandemic period. And again, these are the types of budgets where families have no room, not for an expensive car repair, not for a health need that runs into problems of deductibles, not just co-pays. My neighbors are 2 seniors on fixed incomes, for example, right now, and they need a new well. And that is an almost impossible expense for them. They are hooked up to my well right now, and we'll see what happens. So go ahead, Phil, Drew. We're going to unpack a little bit here, the housing. And wow, I don't know how many of you may have seen some articles about this going back even a couple of years. We have been the most expensive housing market in Michigan for quite some time. And if we go on to the next slide, we see from a data perspective that we are not only quite unaffordable, expensive housing in terms of Michigan, but I'm going to go on from here to say nationally. So here, what the red arrows are showing you, for example, is that the ratio of housing for income is 4.6 in Leelanau. You see where it's lower for Grand Traverse, for Benzie, in terms of some of our most immediate neighbors. Some of you may know in terms of when you apply for mortgages and the types of calculations that they make, 2.6 is considered the ideal ratio of income and affordability for housing. And to show that this is a national challenge, this data, these next couple of slides are from Housing North. And they have analyzed some data from first quarter at this stage from 2020. So a bit more than a year ago, the national average was 3.8. So this is, we're across northern Michigan, we're pretty tracking to national trends, but Leelanau is still really out of reach. Oh, please go on, Phil. This slide just to elaborate a little bit more how expensive this is this from a survey that Housing North did, that figure there in the title of 1,257 per month. They annually do surveys of both employers and employees of what their needs are and their key challenges are. And of course, affordable housing is just repeated, as is childcare and some of the other components here of the ALICE metrics. So really what this chart is showing is a lot of common average wages for the types of workers we have and need here in our county, let alone Northern Michigan, and what types of rents that would mean, or that it would be similar for a mortgage payment. And what you'll see is the average of what people are spending is more than even the top level of what should be affordable. If you look to the total bottom right at the electrician highest salary shown. The next component we're going to unwrap. Yeah.
Beth, can I just make a comment here? We've been told that Leelanau County has the biggest gap in the state between median income and median cost of a home.
Right.
And that's a problem right there. The biggest gap.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the 4.6 ratio figure, and absolutely needs to be a priority at policy level, advocacy level, implementation level, contributions of time and donations. We'll be hearing about this in some of the videos where really some of our frontline service providers are finding this for their beneficiaries. If Phil moves on, we're going to next look at childcare. And the League of Women Voters, I would highlight, has done a lot of work in Leelanau, and there was an excellent special study led by Patricia Sudis Little. Over 40 people in the county participated in a study and a report that goes back 3 or 4 years now, but made a lot of important recommendations. And there is growing work on this in the state. I really hope some funding pipelines can move along successfully on this at the Lansing level, let alone here at our local levels, where we are considered almost a desert of childcare provision. Just quickly, yeah, so this is just showing what that cost is for, and you can see where it goes up at that third column there, if there are children under 5. So compared to in school, where the metrics provide a bit of money for what might be after school care or other child-related expenses when children are over 5 and in school full time. So the next slide that goes on to unpack that beyond the ALICE metrics, I just want to show that this is very recent data from the Michigan League for Public Policy and a special initiative focusing on children up to 3. And those costs there at $609 and $588 for Leelanau track pretty well with the ALICE metrics. One of the gaps I'm choosing to highlight here is the difference between struggling to make ends meet and when you are really impossible and don't make ends meet, and some of that federal or other metrics of getting approved for subsidies. And that's often a big hurdle around for families in terms of getting help. Overall, there's been a decrease of 65% in terms of families being approved for subsidies. And that's what those figures are showing, that only 1.9% of Leelanau families with children under 2 are approved, and then 2% overall going up to 5. And from my own background in MUNICEF, I can't emphasize enough, a key point of brain science data that's been emphasized more and more is that in terms of cognitive development, 90% of our brain and cognitive synapses are established by 3 years old, let alone kindergarten. And so I love that the group's part of your mandate says build a better world and for future generations, because this is a big part of what that means for the future. The last component of ALICE that we're going to go on to, just to unpack a little bit for you, is the cost of food in Leelanau. And so I don't know if any of you have quickly tried to estimate yourselves how much you might spend on groceries in a month, but those are the figures actually from 2 years ago in terms of the official ALICE metrics. And Phil will go on to a next slide, which is highlighting a very recently released national study by the Urban Institute, which just shocked a lot of us, that Leelanau is the worst off in the entire nation in terms of the insufficiency of what are called SNAP benefits. That's the supplemental nutrition benefit that is calculated. I'm actually not sure if I think that's currently there. They did a recent 15% increase of it for the pandemic period that is due to expire. But in any regard, very, very few families even qualify for this benefit, and that benefit is woefully insufficient to covering the cost of food. This was calculated at the cost of a meal basis in Leelanau. There was a great ticker article highlighting some great work by service providers, working with farmers and others in our county when this came out just only about a month ago. So yeah, that's about it. Sorry, that's really kind of a lightning approach to trying to present some terms and key data points to just underscore how extensive this is here in our county for our neighbors. Phil just has one last slide here before we move on to other speakers, simply highlighting the takeaways that Ty and I were trying to highlight for you. This overall figure of 43%. When someone tries to say, "Oh, we really don't see poverty in Leelanau," and if you can respond, 43% actually can't make ends meet, that's pretty serious. And that, underlying that, actually, this isn't something I really emphasized at the beginning, but part of addressing this is a matter of wages. I think when you saw some of those wage tables, you can see where all the debate around a $15 minimum wage will hardly even make us to the survival budget in Leelanau County, but where that is a very relevant question. But it is more than that. It's a matter of keeping up with costs. And those are then these factors of housing, food, childcare, transportation, IT, other factors that we all know are part of day-to-day expenses here in Leelanau. And really highly recommend the regular United Way ALICE resources and their website and references when you may be engaging in speaking to these points in advocacy or other opportunities. Thank you, and I'll try to help answer questions as we move along. Oh, actually, Ty has a couple more things to say. This is an immediate advocacy opportunity. Over to you, Ty.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. We have received a number of proposals and a whole lot of public comment about how we spend our American Rescue money. The county has $4.2 million of revenue coming in that we can spend to meet the needs of our county. The townships also have a great deal of money coming in, and they have the same responsibility to address COVID-related expenses, infrastructure needs, and assistance to families and small businesses that might have been impacted by COVID. So we have a number of requests. Many of those are related to broadband and infrastructure, cell towers, broadband, fiber. But we have had a good number of requests, and Beth and a group put together a request to address poverty in Leelanau County, address struggling families in Leelanau County, and I'm certainly hopeful that we are able to use some of our money It's going to be a decision of the Board of Commissioners, and I think we all have an obligation to make sure we understand the data about our county and then advocate for those people in need. $4.2 million is a lot of money, but it won't nearly address all the needs that we have. But a priority, I think, for me, for this group, needs to be helping those people who have been so impacted by our economic challenges of the last couple of years. The challenge, I think, is we're going to be really faced with a loud and roaring advocacy for broadband and fiber. And we do desperately need that. And I sit on that group to work on that. But I'm not sure that that is a need that we need to have federal monies to pay for. I think that we need a good business plan and we need a customer base. So I would hope that we advocate for helping our nonprofits and our housing needs and our family support needs. And the meeting will be coming up in early October, and we'll make sure that Sam and everybody knows that date for the discussion. Thank you. You're taking questions now, Beth?
Did you want to speak to this poverty in paradise?
I think because of the time, we don't want to do that, but it was just a piece in Bridge magazine 6 years ago to remind us that this is paradise, and there's a lot of poverty and a lot of struggling families in it. There are really two Leelanau's, and there are the Lakeshore group and the people, like in my township, 50% of the families are Alice or poverty. So poverty and paradise.
Yeah, I think at this point, we were going to try to take just 2 or 3 questions in order to also move on to the videos, but really over to you, Sam, in terms of how you're seeing time, want to best move next.
Nobody put a question in the chat. So Dar has a quick question. Dar.
Yeah. Beth, are your slides available to print someplace?
We're recording the meeting, Dar. And yeah, so you'll be able to see it again.
Thanks.
I have a quick question, Sam. This is Trisha Denton. Not to take away from the substance of the message that you just delivered, that I think most of us are pretty familiar with. I think one of the recent challenges that has been raised, the Michigan legislature has challenged Alice as a reliable source for these kinds of data. Could you speak to that so that we can be better advocates when we're challenged about throwing around our LS statistics? What would you tell us how to handle those sorts of challenges?
Yeah, I'm still working on that myself, and that's part of where I was going in unpacking them, not only showing the tables produced by Alice, but then other sources of what the realities are. So that from a survey showing what rents are, what people are paying compared to what the highest wage earner they're showing for should be able to afford. And so that's Housing North, that's other sources of data and analysis. And showing that the child care figure is pretty accurate. It's actually, it's not sufficient for something like the Leland Children's Center, for things that are centers, but maybe for other models. And then again, on food, it's a more difficult one to unpack. But so far, I think that's the way to go, is to show other sources, other acknowledged, credible work that validates, if not expands on their figures, their thresholds.
Yeah, we can also work on that with you, Trisha. And I think that's a big task that I think we all need to work on. And we need to move right along. So now we're going to hear from B, Cruz, Mary Stanton, and April. So
My name is Beatriz Cruz. I'm also known as B. And I have worked, well, I started in Leelanau County as a home visitor about 15, 16 years ago. And I did that for about 7 years, which then took me into the educational system where I have been this whole time. I currently work at Sutton's-based schools with the English learners and the migrant population, because I also work with my other job with just the migrant population with the 5 surrounding counties. And that's just, making sure that they have their needs met when they arrive here with, connecting them to school, to resources, if they need any medical attention, anything you can think of. That's pretty much what we do with the migrant program. And with Sutton's Bay, I'm pretty much free to help and be a liaison and also do similar things with what I do with the migrant program. So I serve a big majority of children. Basically, it's, meeting the child. So with that, with my history of being a migrant child myself, migrating from Texas to Northern Michigan, I had an idea of what it all entitled to go through the struggles of being a migrant and the needs and housing. And so it was easier for me to get into that role and know how to better help our families. And so being here in Leelanau County, I think it's one of the best counties we can arrive upon. And, it has its positive and it has its negatives, but the good thing is that if you know where to go to get assistance, if you know, for example, where the pantries are at, if you know where the baby pantry is at, it's such a good way for you to be able to navigate it and to be able to reach other families. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about having to go through struggles, having to be worried about how to feed your family, how to clothe them, how to pay for medical bills, how to make sure that their dental work is done, just anything you can think of that people would struggle. It is true. There are these needs. And if you have never gone through this, then I would really suggest for you to go and visit one of the pantries, get to know people, get to know their stories, and relate to them in such a different level where you're more connected as to what the reality is of our community members. And also last night we had the friendship community potluck, and it was an amazing event. We had great turnout, and just to see different generations connecting. I had a lot of Latinos asking, like, who is this? Who is that? I was like, I don't know, but let's go up and talk to them. And it was so nice to just see the group of people that were there and the connections that were being made. And this is what I say, that when you help out, a lot of times we're like, well, how much can I donate? How much can I give you? The monetary donations are great and they're fabulous. And of course we can't do it without them, but we also need people who have those connections, who have the resources to come down to our level, connect with us so that we can then make more connections, and that we can hopefully find, jobs that are going to pay us a decent wage. And so a lot of times we cannot get a good paying job if we don't know those individuals who have already their foot in the door. And that's what helps us, the referrals, somebody saying, hey, I know somebody who does this and we can connect you. And, a lot of those connections I have on that, when I volunteered at Leelanau Christian Neighbors were being made, that it was like, hey, B, do you know somebody who cleans windows? I'm like, yes, I do, and do you know somebody who cleans house? And yes, I do. So, you have to put yourself there where people are going to get to know you, where they're going to be like, hey, I can go to this person and this person connect me. And with me being somebody who was somebody that had to rely on the food pantry for many years and the baby pantry, I put myself out there. I was having to feel very uncomfortable at the beginning, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go and ask for help. So I know what it is for others to come and tell their story and feel uncomfortable and have everybody who's in the waiting room, look at you and be like, oh, so they're needing help. It's really uncomfortable, but the more you get to know people, the more comfortable you get, and you start to relate to each other's stories. And so you don't feel so ashamed. And, that is where I think we need to be at. We need to be connecting at a level where it's real, where the pain is at, so that we can help those who are less fortunate be able to come out of the situation that they're at. We're very blessed after many, many years of struggles that, we were able to connect with certain individuals who helped us how to start our own business, who helped us how to navigate all of this, so that we were able to then move away from the assistance that we it's only possible, when both are meeting each other and making those true connections, so that our community can thrive. And I tell you, we're in a great place, but there's still a lot of struggles. There's still a lot that we can do to better our community and to help those who are financially struggling, because everything is expensive. And if you're not making that decent wage, you're struggling with how to take your kids even to the doctor, because you need gas to put in your car, and what school you're going to send them to. And just there's so many factors that go into where we live, because everybody's so spread out. But at the same time, there's just such great connections that are being made here that some people are missing out on. And I think we just need to be able to make ourselves very available to make folks aware that they can come to us, they can approach us. And we want, obviously for everybody to have a great quality life, but we just have a lot of work to do still. And with that, I want to introduce you my very beloved friend, Mary Stanton, who has helped me throughout so much.
Thanks, B. Good morning, everyone. I am the executive director of Leelanau Christian Neighbors, located in Lake Leelanau. We have, for those of you who don't know what we do have a baby pantry there, and we serve kids 5 and under. And we do diapers, slightly used clothes, some new clothes, some baby equipment, including car seats. A couple of years ago, someone came to us and said, hey, I have some money and I'd like you to buy car seats for people. And so we started paying attention to the car seats that kids were in when they came to the pantry, and we were kind of appalled that children were either not in car seats or were in car seats that perhaps they got from a family member or even set outside at somebody's driveway. So we're trying to get those off the streets and getting those newest babies into some safe transportation. We serve probably 25 kids a week in our baby pantry. And one of the cool things is Parenting Community sends a representative there every Monday, so they can connect with the families in our community and really get them more resources as needed. We pride ourselves in being, we'd like to be that center where anyone can come, B can come, anyone can come and tap in to the neighbors that come to visit us and to offer their services. We have Northwest Michigan Education Center brings in food samples every so often. Pre-COVID, they came twice a month, and now they haven't come back yet, but they're scheduled to start coming hopefully in October. And that allows people who never tasted kale before perhaps to have a yummy kale salad, and then we'll have those options in the food pantry. So we're trying to get people to eat healthy, which gives them a healthier life in the long run. So anyway, that's our baby pantry. We have a neighbor assistance ministry program where we offer financial aid for people, and we help people do just about anything. I mean, we pay mortgages, we pay rent, car payments, car insurance, education. We bought a laptop recently for a young lady starting college. So I say this often, but we pride ourselves in always saying yes first and then figuring out how we can make it work, because we know that every single person is an individual and they have individual issues or needs, and we want to make sure that we are there for them as best we can. It also makes our volunteers very happy when they can say yes all the time instead of no. We have a Blessings in a Backpack program where we send food home weekly for kids in schools. We serve about 150 children every week during the school year with bags of food. And then we set up food pantries in the high schools. And there we serve another 100 or so children. And those are for kids, they're a little too embarrassed to grab that bag of food and take it home, or they're staying after school and they don't have any money for any food between school and their sports activities. They can run into the pantry, grab some good protein bars or something or maybe, something that they can throw in the microwave quickly, like a bowl of soup or something. And also they can grab it first thing in the morning when they haven't had breakfast at home, so they can have a bite to eat before school starts. And then and let me say too that we do the migrant school in the summer. We also provide bags of food for them as well. I think this year it was about 600 bags for them, or 700. And then lastly, we have our food pantry. We serve 70 to 80 families a week. Pre-pandemic, we were serving about 100. So we see the numbers now starting to come back up. We have set up it differently after the pandemic started. We've taken our waiting room and turned that into a perishable room, which has been amazing, because I don't know how it all fit in the pantry to be before. We had, on Monday, we had fresh apples from Bartenhagen, TLC tomatoes, potatoes from Bartenhagen, cucumbers from Second Spring Farms. We really try to buy local and try to make sure that we have really good produce for our neighbors. Again, we want them to eat healthy. We don't want to be giving out food that that you wouldn't eat. So it kind of gets to me. And then in our pantry itself, we have all of the non-perishables and our dairy. Each week, people get 2 dozen eggs, a pound of butter, cheese. So they have high protein. We try to have milk if we can. And then we have everything else that's non-perishable in there. We've gone to a shopping model in our pantry so that we're not telling them how many things they can have, because sometimes they might have company. We find that there's funerals in the family. There could be a lot going on that we don't know about. And so we just allow people to come in and shop and take what they need. And it's kind of surprising. When we started that model, some people were afraid that, the pantry was going to be empty by the end of the day because everybody's going to take everything. And it's not true. People take what they need and are very thankful for that. And then during the holidays, we have holiday food as well. So Thanksgiving, we give a complete Thanksgiving meal, fresh potatoes, fresh sweet potatoes, frozen turkey, I don't know, everything there is to go with that. Rolls, anything you can think of, we give. And then at Christmas, we do something a little different. We started giving rotisserie chickens, which seemed to be a big hit at Christmas because people are too busy to cook. So they like that. And then we do something again at Easter for them. So those are really special days for us at the pantry, and everyone's pretty excited to work those days. We always have way too many volunteers because everybody wants to be there to wish their neighbors a happy holiday. Some people think that we should be testing people or looking at their income levels when they come into the pantry. But what they forget is that every single one of us are one catastrophe away from having to go into the pantry. And a story I like to share is one day somebody came in the pantry and I was pretty excited to see this person because I knew them. And I was like, oh, how cool that he's bringing something in to donate. And come to find out, this person was there for our services. And after a couple of weeks of talking with them and understanding what was going on in this person's life, we found out that this person was a subject of elder abuse. And although he was doing very well, when someone moved into his home and started taking all his money and treating them horribly, he couldn't make it anymore. And so we were able to help that situation, call the right people, get them involved, and now everything's back to normal. And believe it or not, there's donations coming now from that person. So you don't know who needs our services. You know, for people who judge, the people that come in are they certainly have a blind eye to what's really happening in our community. I had a woman that called me. She was 48 years old. She was single. She had a partner that she was living with, but you know, legally she was single, and she couldn't work. She had a brain injury, and she needed a beta bus passes because she needed to get to the services. She needed to figure out what she could do for her future, and nobody would help her because she was 48. She was single. And they basically said, go get a job. So we helped her for probably a year and a half to 2 years until she could go and figure out what type of work she could do. And then she got a job and she's doing great. But you just never know. You never know what's going to come in our doors at LCN. Never. It's always a surprise to me, the stories. Had somebody come in the other day. They were homeless. They didn't have any food. They didn't have any clothes. So we took them over to Samaritan's Closet. They were able to get, you know, a few pieces of clothing there, and they'll come back because not always do we have your size or your style, but they'll come back and shop again. So although our Samaritan's Closet is our resale store and the money from that goes directly to our programs, by selling of the merchandise, we do give away the merchandise to a lot of people. A lot of families go through there free of charge. And if we have things that are too difficult for us to sell, we call B, and B always finds a nice home for them. So that's a nice partnership. We also work very closely with senior services. They now come into our to LCN with their Meals on Wheels and deliver them to the neighbors as they come in to shop in the pantry. They also key us into needs of the seniors that we might not know about. And so we can work together quite nicely. And we are hoping to come up with a more sophisticated meal system for the seniors in the coming year. So much like our Blessings in a Backpack, we would get bags of food specifically, you know, for Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones, who is diabetic or needs this type of food or is vegetarian. And we would streamline our bags of food for each individual senior, and then senior services would deliver them. So it's been a pleasure working with April and her staff at Senior Services, trying to, again, really get into helping our seniors. What else can I say about us? Oh, another thing that we're starting to do is, obviously everyone knows that we have a housing crisis here, and building affordable housing is a very difficult job. LCN has invested with Homestretch on the Merrick Road project, and we're hoping that that's going to go through. It's going to be 8 units on Merrick Road off of 204. But, you know, that really isn't quite enough. What we see people coming in with high utility bills, roof leaks, window problems. So we're starting a home improvement area where people can come in and talk to us about those situations. And we have joined with Leelanau Energy. They'll go out and do an energy audit and then figure out what needs to be done. We turn that over to Northport Building Supply, and they'll send somebody out to estimate the cost of doing that, or estimate the cost of the materials needed. And then the next step is to find someone to do the work. So we're trying to make it better for people to live in their homes, their existing homes. You know, people are living with broken windows, broken doors. We have a woman who has a huge crack in her door. The water comes in the house, onto the floor. The floor is all rotted. She has 3 windows that are no good at all. So you can imagine her utility bills. Well, we could continue to pay the utility bills, but what does that do for her? So we're trying to get to the start of the problem and hopefully make a big difference for our neighbors. So that's LCN in a nutshell.
Thank you, Bea and Mary. You inspire me so much. I know Bea inspired me to go to the friendship meeting last night. And Mary, you're going to see me in your door really soon. And I hope everybody who watches this program will be joining me there.
I hope so. You know, we'd love to have you.
Well, you both are such inspiring women, and thank you for caring about your neighbors in a very real way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, let us know what else.
And now to our second video.
We provide service for seniors that are the seniors I serve of Leelanau County Senior Service. Okay. Hi, I'm April Messias. I'm the director of Leelanau County Senior Services, and I'm just so happy to be here talking to you about the seniors I serve and some of the challenges they experience financially and just reaching out to supports and services that they may need. We provide services for seniors that are 60 years of age or older. We've even provided services for seniors who are over 100. So we always think that's a blessing to be able to support them at the end and other life. One of the greatest assets I think that we provide is information and assistance. We provide guidance and connect people with resources and supports that make them or add to their life, I guess, and so that they can live life on their own terms. And so we receive calls and people that come into our office looking for guidance about services that may assist their loved ones or them themselves. And so some of the things that we provide that can be of importance when you are lower income, we have a Medicare, Medicaid specialist that can help seniors in choosing the proper drug plan that can hopefully in the end save them some dollars, as well as signing up for Medicare and looking at if they're lower income, would they qualify for a federal or state program that would pay for that Medicare. It's very challenging when you have a very low Social Security amount, maybe $800 to $1,000, and to have $148.50 taken out each month. That can be very challenging when you're trying to maintain a home, a vehicle, and just trying to live. So that's one way we can really assist a senior. We also provide financial assistance for those that meet certain income and asset guidelines. We assist with utility bills, medical bills, our unmet needs. So if somebody had a safety repair to a vehicle or a car, we can assist in paying for that or collaborating with other organizations if it is a large amount to ensure that takes place. And one of the biggest things that we provide assistance with that not many people do is dental. I think many of our seniors, that's the last thing that they addressed, the last thing on the list that always goes to the bottom for some reason. So it always makes us feel good when we have someone that we can help them with if they need a major, maybe they need to have a tooth pulled or have dentures, that we can assist with that. And we had a senior that he would come into the office frequently, and he needed dentures, and he was reticent and, just not so sure about it. He finally did. He got the dentures. He came in and he was beaming. He was just so, his confidence level grew. And it was so good to see that smile on his face. So that's a touching thing that we're happy we can assist with. One of the big things that we can assist with is in-home services. So if you meet income and asset guidelines, we can pay for some services, ranging from personal care, and that might be someone that comes in to assist with bathing or just to be present while you're bathing for safety measures. That could be giving a caregiver a break, respite care in that way, or having a med management nurse come in and check out, set your medications up to make sure that you're taking them, they're in pill boxes. It makes it easier to navigate that. But for those seniors that don't meet those income and asset guidelines, we still, we work with the senior in looking at how can we get them the services they need. So we often see seniors that they don't necessarily have the money to pay for privately for services. Services range on average about $35 an hour to have someone come into your home. And there's usually a limit or a minimum of a 3-hour visit, 3-hour time period. So you're looking at around $100 very quick. That adds up pretty quickly. And so that can be not attainable for many of our seniors. So we are always working with them and trying to look at different resources, different options. Are there other programs within the community that don't look at income and asset? How can we get them connected? And also taking that closer look, are there family, are there friends? How can we surround them with the supports they need to remain in their home? Housing options, we frequently get calls about where should we move to if we can no longer stay in our home. Some people can afford assisted living, and the VA certainly has programs that can assist veterans as well. So we've been able to move a number of veterans that may be lower income, but the VA can assist with that so that they can move into an assisted living if needed. But a lot of our seniors have the need to downsize, but they know that there's no place to downsize to in Leelanau County. They're limited in that way. They may be able to move into Traverse City, maybe to an apartment, but that's taking them out of their community and out of their support system. And so that is detrimental, I think, oftentimes to their health and well-being. So looking at all those options, we have a lot of seniors that end up staying in their home and they struggle to maintain, they struggle to heat. And so oftentimes we get requests for assistance in that way. And then some of the things we also provide is opportunities for people to get out socially, to meet with them. To meet with other seniors. We've offered like a dining out program where we offer a discount just to get people to come out. And that's been a great thing to see widows that maybe didn't feel, they didn't want to go out to eat by themselves, but they could all come together and and share a meal. So those have been great things. We offer, in the past, we've done euchre, and we try to just do some fun things too to brighten people's spirits that are low cost and they can just come together. One of the big things that came out of the pandemic, opened our eyes, was the need of food. Food insecurity became a real concern for many of our seniors. For some, it was they did not have enough money to purchase food, and that has been an ongoing thing that they have had challenges with, but it wasn't okay to come forward and say that until everybody was talking about it. And everybody was struggling with that insecurity of getting to the grocery store or not being able to, or having someone drop off things. That just real change. So it became okay for a number of people to come forward and say, I'm having difficulties with this. And so we provided a lot of seniors through this pandemic with either dropping off food, connecting them with resources of people who could pick up groceries for them, and just addressing anything around that. We are always, it's so nice to, you know, take a thing of broccoli to someone's door and they open the door. They're so excited that you're bringing broccoli and apples, or, you know, whatever we have fresh that day that we can do. I will say that we continue even through the pandemic, and even now, I mean, we're still obviously in the midst of the pandemic, but we continue to receive calls either from a senior themselves or a family member or a neighbor who says, I know someone that does not have any food today. And so we have really collaborated with Leelanau Christian Neighbors that we can go in any day and get and use their pantry service to put together some bags of food to deliver to them when there's that need. That's really concerning to me when I have a senior that says I don't have any food in the house, in the home. So I you know, what everything I just talked about is something that I usually share with anybody I'm talking to about seniors. I try to share the services that we provide. I try to give a little story, but I don't oftentimes think it really touches on the work that goes into making sure that those services take place. I report on numbers, I report on percentages and dollars to a lot of people in the community who ask questions about how many people are we serving, how many, and so I can give numbers, I can give dollars, I can give the synopsis of the services we provide, but I really don't think that gives you a look at what it's like to work with lower income, especially with seniors, and the challenges that they face on an everyday basis. So yes, we provide all those services, but it begins with a senior calling on the phone or a family member calling on the phone, generally maybe oftentimes in a crisis mode of needing care or needing some guidance or assistance right away, or it begins with somebody walking in the door saying, I need help. And so we sit down, when they're in front of us, we sit down, we look in their eyes, we say, one of my favorite things, a phrase to open up the conversation is, how can I help you? Or what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And then, so we begin to peel back those layers of the onion and trying and seeing what the picture looks like, what's going on. They may come, that first need, that crisis need may be, I can't pay a fuel bill, or I need assistance with cleaning my floors. I'm struggling with my physical limitations to do that. So we always dive in deeper, and we begin with an assessment, and usually that assessment occurs in the home. Where we go into the home, where that's their setting, that's their special space where they feel comfortable, and we try to just have a conversation. But being in their home gives us a better idea of, like, yes, they may have asked for just assistance with homemaking, but as we look around the home, we see things that are in ill repair, or we're concerned, there's some safety concerns. They need someone to help with homemaking, but the question is, do they have the money to even to pay for cleaning supplies, which is often a challenge. They can be rather expensive, and that goes to the bottom of the list when you are lower income. So we go into homes, and they're not always clean, but you get a better sense of who the person is, and we sit across from them and we say, okay, these are the ways that we could help you. And then, when someone is in their own environment, oftentimes they feel more comfortable sharing their story. All of us have a story of how we got to where we are today. And some of those stories are heartbreaking. As we sit across from people, we hear, about the loss of loved ones, a spouse, or maybe children. We hear about abuse or neglect. We've heard about children taking all the money, abusive spouses. We hear about substance use. We hear everything. We hear, a life story, and we hear how many of them did not expect to be where they are today. We hear that they did everything right. They saved, they prepared for retirement, and something happened. a spouse got ill, and that reduced their savings. And so there is very little money left. A child moved in, and so they used their money to help care for the adult child and maybe other grandchildren, or they continue to care for their grandchildren. So everybody has a story, and it's important to understand where the need is, but also looking at all the parts of it. How you can assist with that. So that, and sometimes it's not easy. It takes an emotional toll on all of us as we're absorbing that information and trying to think, how can we support this person? What resources does Leelanau County Senior Services have? But how can I collaborate with other organizations to pick up that need where we leave off? And so that's the hard work. Sometimes we're running, and that's hard. And there are other times, like I feel like it's our superpower too. My kids, I have young kids, and so they're always talking about, Mama, what do you think your superpower would be? What would you want it to be? And I always say, well, I do have superpowers. My superpower is that I can see in the dark. And they're like, really? And so I get in the trenches. We get in the trenches with people, and it's really dark down there sometimes as people are trying to find their way out. But I work really hard to see in the dark, to see how we can lift somebody up at that. And that is the work that goes into providing those services and to be able to provide those numbers and statistics regarding our seniors. But we go into places that are dirty, either with stories or sentiment, or dirty physically, and we try to find the way out and help them shine some light and bring some joy to their life, and let them know that there are people in their community that can support them. I think Ty had asked us to talk about our fears and our hopes and our asks for this group. So my fear is affordable housing, and this is that we have seniors that can't afford housing to downsize, but also the bigger issue is that we don't have caregivers that can afford housing in our area. It takes caregivers to provide service for seniors. Our population percentage, the percentage is 43% of the population are 60 years of age or older. At 75, research shows that seniors begin to really have more needs. Their body begins to, as I always say, it begins to betray us when some of those chronic illnesses show up that we weren't expecting and preparing for. And so I'm concerned that with our continual growing population and the lack of affordable housing, that we are not going to have younger people that are moving into the county that can care for our older adults. We are already seeing impact. There is a shortage of caregivers. We are seeing that across the board, private caregivers, individuals who are working for private pay, as well as individuals who are working for home health agencies. When I make a referral for someone to provide service, I no longer say, I authorize you to provide the service for a senior. I say, can you do this? Can you accommodate this request? Because I don't want to go into the nitty gritty of everything that's going on unless you have the hours and you have the people to provide this. And if you can't, then I need to move on to the next person to try to get care in there. But care is delayed. It's, it might be delayed by 1 or 2 weeks as home health agencies are scrambling to try to find staff to provide that service. And I'm seeing, before, I think home health agencies were able to honor the request and the time that needed of services. Like, I would like some respite care for my loved one during this time, because this is the time that I go to a book club, or I go out with a friend or something. And I'm seeing now that that's not the case. They're coming back and saying, we can provide the service, but the only day and time that we can provide it is this time. And it comes down to take it or leave it. That's what they can do. So I worry, if we're already at this stage, what is it going to look like as we continue to grow? My hope is that we begin to, I'm really protective of seniors. I'm protective of their stories. I'm protective of, I really dislike when people judge lower income people. I have a lot of people that come through my office, or that even people that we cross path with in the community that are very judgmental of lower income seniors. And so I'm really protective of them. And my hope is that we're able to open the eyes of many of those people so that they begin to just look at them as their friends and their neighbors, their community members, and they begin to see that everybody has a story, and not everybody is born into the most astute environment. Not everybody has the same advantages. And so that's my hope, that we can begin to turn that, or, I always say, even if we could change one person, that one person can go on and change a few more minds. So I'm hopeful about that we can continue to do that work. And my ask is always that you open your eyes, that you let someone acknowledge them, and check on your neighbors and your family members. See how they're doing. We have a lot of seniors that are very isolated. They don't have very many interactions with people. I know many seniors who the only person they see in a week's time is the person that's delivering Meals on Wheels to them. So if a neighbor could just even stop by and say, "Hey, how are you doing? Is there anything I could bring you?" That opens the door that for them. Maybe they just want a newspaper. Maybe they just want someone to say, "Hi, how are you doing?" Acknowledge that they're there. But that also opens the door that if they had a bigger need, that they may feel comfortable coming to you and saying, "Can you help?" And you could be a helper. And you don't have to have the answers, but you would know you could help them find the resources or the caregiver, the person that could guide them. So, thank you for listening.
Wow, I'm just so impressed with those three women, and I see Mary Stanton is with us too. So if you guys want to just kiss the ring, she's right over there, and say thank you for the work you do. Yeah, let's. And I saw that Ty had answered some questions. Does anyone else have more questions that they didn't put in the chat as of yet? Trisha?
I've always got questions, you know me, Sam. I wonder how you all coordinate with HelpLink in Glen Lake area. Jennifer Watkins, who heads that up. Just wondered if there's anybody that's on the call today that could elaborate on how Leelanau Christian Neighbors, for example, links up with HelpLink in the southwest portion of the county.
Well, we're in contact with them. We share resources. They send people our way that they're unable to help. We are on the coalition with the food pantry that happens in the same location as HelpLink. Does that answer your question, Tricia?
Yeah. I just, too, I wanted people to know that we have neighbors down in the southwest part of the county that are linking up and trying to work together to help people too. So that's another resource or option for people.
We also work with the Empire Emergency Fund. We'll work with anyone to make sure that neighbors who we're aware of are in need. We just recently helped a graduate of Glen Lake Schools that was homeless, and we participated in getting her set up at Northwest Michigan Community College, and also getting a car so she could be independent for the summer and get to work, so she could start
her education this fall there. So we're kind of everywhere.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
So Kathy, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Marciniak, says, why are food costs in Leelanau so much higher than the rest of the state? Anybody know that one? Beth, you got that one?
I don't know. I was really wowed by that SNAP report the other day. So, I mean, Mary, in terms of the food pantry, I think Mary and her team, and I'm sure others may have some insight on it, but the other program you might reach out to for elaborations is Goodwill's food rescue program. Yeah, it's some from that Leelanau Ticker article. They highlighted some of the services and programs working on this, and I would turn to them for their insights.
We're also still seeing the food chain is still happening. What is the word? That the food chain is not working yet, like it was pre-pandemic. So we're the supply chain. There you go. Thanks, Beth. So we're still not able to get some of the things at the cost that we would like, or as much as we would like to have. So we, some of the important things like olive oil is one of them. We like to carry that for our people, and we typically can get that for like $1.79 a bottle for, I think, 16 ounces. And just recently we weren't able to get it anymore. So we had to pay up to $4 for a bottle. So it is costing us more there. And Food Rescue is doing very well with their rescuing of food in the county and then delivering it to the pantries. We get quite a bit from them. And I must say the local farmers are really stepping up as well. Food Rescue and the Food Coalition are purchasing fresh produce from our area farmers, but also the farmers are giving it to us, specifically to us in the county.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see that Marianne had asked where can they see the proposals for the COVID funds, and Ty said they'll be available on the county website very soon. I know our time is running long today, but we thought this was a topic that we wanted people to hear about. And we also want all of you to be active in our community. And you probably heard about the last mask incident at the Board of Commissioners. And I want to thank everybody for writing the letter. So Phil, do you want to go back to our slides? Yeah. We really want to thank you. These are all the letters that went in about the to support the Board of Health. And we hope to see more of you on September 22nd at 2 o'clock in the community room, where there'll be a Board of Health meeting at the county building. Ty, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I want to say that those letters that were sent to Board of Commissioners were much appreciated. And we regret the decision of the Board of Commissioners, but your voice was heard, and we're going to take that message when we visit with the Health Department Board at their 22nd meeting, when we plan to commend the Health Department for their fine work and apologize for the board action.
So please keep writing, and thank you for what you did.
Sam, I have a quick comment. If people know parents of children who believe in masking, they should come to that meeting. And if there's any way to get the word out to them, please contact them and do that, because there wasn't a single parent there at that meeting who believed in masking last week.
Yep, I'm already working on that one, Dar.
Yeah, I am too. I'm working hard. The other thing I wanted to say real quick is please look out for your neighbors. Find the ones in need, help them.
Okay, and let's go on to actions. Look for and help people around you who are struggling. Engage with these agencies to help them help others. Attend the VOC meetings, provide public comment, watch for action alerts from Leelanau Indivisible. And I know we have come to our next meeting on October 2nd. We're going to have Marcelo Betty and Julie King from the King Orchards talking about how you can be active and help with immigration issues. So we want to thank you for coming today, but we also have a message from Linda Pepper, who wants to give us all a little message too. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. This coming Friday, the 17th, is Constitution Day. And Indivisible has asked people to do something to say, protect our votes. Now, here in Michigan, we recently had an effort that's going to start soon, where they're going to be coming around with petitions, and they're going to tell you this is going to make your vote more secure. And what it actually is going to make it much harder for many people to vote. It's going to require checking your signature when you come in to vote. Just imagine this poor older lady looking at this signature you have and the signature that's on record, and she's supposed to decide that that's okay. So that's what Secure Michigan Vote is going to do. We are going to say this is not a good idea at all. We don't need it. And we want to say we want to participate and have people vote. We're going to have signs. We're going to do a car caravan. We're going to leave at 1 o'clock from the old Cherryland Mall. We will drive around through Traverse City, and then we will drive up through Leelanau, up all the way to Northport, come back through Leland, and wind up at the Farm Club for maybe a little social time. But our aim is to go ahead and bring people's interest into the fact that this petition that you're going to be asked to sign in farmers markets and football games and so forth is not what it seems to be. So some of the things you can put on signs are decline to sign, let Michigan vote, freedom to vote. Another one was, if everyone participates, we have a stronger democracy. So we are hoping to do we are going to do it this Friday, 1 o'clock, leaving from the Cherryland Mall. And Sam, you're going to put something out about this. Anybody with any questions, give them my phone number, give them my email. I'll be happy to go ahead and explain it and help them get a sign. So I really, really hope we are able to bring focus to the fact that we have great elections already, and this craziness that's happening both in Washington and here in Michigan has to be fought, because our freedom to vote, it is our most sacred duty as citizens.
Thank you, Linda. Tricia, did you want to announce some league events that are coming up?
I do. I wanted to point out to everyone, I put in the chat the link to the recording of this past week's league program that was very, I think, excellent, and went into great detail on the issue that Linda was just speaking to, attempts by the Michigan legislature and Secure Michigan vote to erode our voting rights and protections that were passed by a petition, citizens-driven petition in 2018. And the fallout from the results of greater voter participation in 2020 is that people are trying to erode voting rights. So if you want a really good look at the details of some of the examples that Linda mentioned, please check out that recording of the league program from this past week. And then on the environmental front, there are two upcoming opportunities. Monday, September 20th, I'll put this in the chat also, at 6:30 p.m. in the evening, Yoga on the Beach is going to be hosting a fundraiser for Leelanau Clean Water Collaborative Group. 30% of the donations from the yoga practice will go to support Leelanau Clean Water. And then secondly, October 6th will be the next League of Women Voters Forum. And our focus is going to be on collaborative approaches in the county to combating aquatic invasive species. We're going to have a speaker from the Grand Traverse Band and a speaker from at least the Lake Leelanau Lake Association, talking about specifically the topic of Eurasian water milfoil, but these approaches would apply to any number of, there are more than 100 invasive species that Michigan is tracking. So I hope that some of you can join us for the October 6th program that the league will be hosting via Zoom. Thanks, Sam, for the chance to make those announcements.
Actually, Tricia, if you would send me an email too, then I can send it to Jill, our amazing secretary, who will send it out in the notes to everybody. Thank you. Mary, did you have anything that you would like to say? I know I need to make it over there yet just to take pictures of cars in the parking lot, but Mary, would you like to say something to the folks before we go?
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity to share the news of LCN for sure. I think the more we talk about it, the more people understand what's happening, the better things will be for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your work. Anybody else have anything for the good of the cause here? Okay, well, you find people, it looks like a lovely day. Get out there, enjoy this beautiful peninsula, and say hey to your neighbors, and stop by and see Mary, and go to the league, and maybe I'll see everybody Friday at the Cherryland Mall at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Sam.
Good,
Thank you.
good meeting. Thanks for all the information.
You're so welcome. So glad you're here, Berta. And
Yep.
thank you, Phil Diamond, our amazing slide man. Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Ty. And Ty, we all love you. We don't know how you do it.
Hey,
All
Dar,
Yeah.
I did bring my kids to the meeting.
Yeah.
Thursday night. Did you
Yeah.
see?
Wednesday's meeting? I didn't see you there. Were you downstairs?
Yeah,
Nope.
she was upstairs. But you know what, Tricia, if your kids could write a letter, that would maybe be good too. I'm trying to get a bunch of people from all the schools to write letters. So
We need to hear from the kids about how they feel about masks.
yeah,
I
that's my
too.
focus. Yeah.
I've never heard a complaint in my life from a grandchild for wearing a mask. She's glad to go to school and glad to wear it. So we need to hear from those kids and those parents.
My grandkids wear the mask freely. They have no problems with them either.
Mine don't either.
They're
I think we
happy.
should get a pathetic child to say, aren't we going to be allowed, Mr. Commissioner, or Mrs. Commissioner, to wear our masks at Halloween?
Oh, Jerry, thanks for that.
I love it. That's fun.
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you guys. Love you all.
Love you too. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Sam.
You're so welcome.